I watch him through the glass walls of my corner office as he adjusts his name tag. The same shaky hands that used to point at me in disgust now fumbling with plastic letters that spell Tom Line Cook. He glances up, catches me looking, and his shoulders shrink inward like he's trying to disappear. The irony tastes sweeter than the champagne I had when I signed the acquisition papers. 3 years ago, he told me I'd never amount to anything working in places like that. Now places like that own the company that owns his job. Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is the story of how my father's cruelest words became my greatest motivation. The unemployment office smelled like disinfectant and broken dreams. I'd been sitting there for 2 hours, watching a man in a wrinkled suit explain to anyone who'd listen that he used to be somebody important at the bank. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry insects, and every plastic chair seemed designed to remind you that you'd failed at something. My phone buzzed. Dad. Rachel, honey, your mother says you're still looking. His voice carried that particular tone, the one he used when discussing my choices, like he was prodding a dead animal with a stick. Yeah, Dad. Still looking. I shifted in the uncomfortable chair, watching a woman with calloused hands fill out paperwork with the concentration of someone solving calculus. Well, I heard through the grapevine that Hartwell Industries is hiring. Management training program. I could put in a word. I actually have something lined up, I interrupted. The lie came easily. It had to. Oh. His voice perked up with hope. Where? I closed my eyes. Russo's downtown. Silence. The kind of silence that feels like falling off a cliff. The restaurant? Manager position. Good money, benefits, absolutely not. The words hit me like a slap. Around me, people continued filling out forms, checking their phones, living their lives while mine imploded in real time. Dad, no daughter of mine works there. Rachel, do you understand me? No daughter of mine works in some. He paused, searching for the right weapon. Some kitchen. With those people. Those people. I knew exactly what he meant. My father, Tom Brennan, had worked his way up from nothing to a middle management position at a mid-size accounting firm. It wasn't impressive to anyone else, but to him, it was everything. It was respectability. It was proof that he'd transcended his own father's blue-collar life. And now his daughter wanted to work in food service. It's not just a kitchen, Dad. It's management. I'd be running operations for. I don't care if you're running the whole damn place, Rachel, it's beneath you. It's beneath our family. I stood up, needing to move, needing air. The unemployment office suddenly felt like a fishbowl, everyone watching my humiliation play out in whispered phone conversation. So what am I supposed to do? I've been unemployed for 4 months. This is a good opportunity, find something respectable. Use your degree. Use your brain. I am using my brain. No, you're not. You're panicking. You're taking the first thing that comes along because you're desperate, and desperate people make stupid decisions. Each word was a precision strike. My father had always been good at that, finding the exact phrase that would hurt most. But this time, something else happened. Instead of crumbling, I felt something harden inside me. I'm taking the job, Dad. Another silence, longer this time. Then don't come home for Christmas. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, the unemployment office spinning slightly around me. The woman with calloused hands looked up from her paperwork and caught my eye. She gave me a small nod, the kind of acknowledgement you get from someone who's been where you are. Family, she asked softly. Something like that. She went back to her forms, but not before saying, sometimes the people who love us most are the ones who see us least clearly. I wanted to cry. I wanted to call him back and apologize, take it all back, promise to keep looking for something respectable. But instead, I walked outside into the December cold and dialed Russo's. Hi, this is Rachel Brennan. I interviewed for the manager position last week. I'd like to accept. The words felt like jumping off a bridge, terrifying and liberating at the same time. That night, I lay in my studio apartment, eating ramen and staring at the ceiling. My father's voice echoed in my head, no daughter of mine works there. Fine, I thought. Maybe I wasn't his daughter anymore. But I was still me. And I was going to prove that sometimes the places people think are beneath you are actually the places that lift you highest. I had no idea how right I was going to be. 18 months later, I was standing in the kitchen of Russo's at 5:47 a.m., watching steam rise from the prep stations like morning fog. The industrial dishwasher hummed its familiar rhythm, and I could hear Marco, our head chef, already cursing at the walk-in cooler in rapid-fire Spanish and English. Rachel, his voice carried over the clatter of prep work. The fucking freezer is acting up again, and we've got that corporate party tonight. I grabbed my coffee, black, strong enough to wake the dead, and headed over. This was my life now. Problems that needed solving, people who depended on me, a business that lived or died by 1,000 small decisions every day. And I was good at it. Better than good. How bad? I asked, pulling open the freezer door. The temperature gauge read 42 degrees. Not catastrophic, but not sustainable. Started around 4. I moved the proteins to the backup, but if it doesn't hold. Marco shrugged in that way that meant we were looking at thousands in lost inventory. I pulled out my phone and called Jimmy, our maintenance guy. He picked up on the second ring, because that's the kind of relationship you build when you treat people like professionals instead of those people. Jimmy, it's Rachel. Freezer 2 is acting up again. Can you be here in an hour? Already in the van, boss. Figured you'd call. Boss. It still gave me a little thrill, even after all this time. While I waited for Jimmy, I walked the floor, checking every station, every prep list, every detail that would make or break tonight's service. The corporate party was 300 people from Brennan and Associates. Yes, that Brennan and Associates, my father's company. They'd booked us for their annual holiday party, which meant I'd spent the last month planning a perfect evening for people who probably thought they were slumming it by eating at a place like this. The irony wasn't lost on me. Rachel? I turned to find Jenny, my assistant manager, holding a clipboard and looking nervous. Jenny was 24, sharp as a knife, and reminded me of myself a few years ago, hungry, determined, and tired of being underestimated. What's up? I just got off the phone with the event coordinator from Brennan and Associates. They want to adjust the menu. I felt my jaw tighten. Adjust how? Apparently someone over there thinks our planned menu is too ethnic for their crowd. They want us to make it more mainstream. The words hit me like a physical blow. Our planned menu was gorgeous, Marco's modern Italian with influences from his grandmother's recipes, paired with local ingredients, and wines from small vineyards. It was sophisticated, thoughtful, and absolutely delicious. It was also, apparently, too ethnic. Who made this request? I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I already knew. Jenny checked her notes. Tom Brennan. He's apparently some kind of senior manager there. Of course he was. I stood there for a moment, feeling the weight of 18 months of 12-hour days, of learning every aspect of this business, of proving myself over and over again. I thought about the glowing reviews we'd gotten, the repeat customers, the way our reservations book stayed full weeks in advance. I thought about my father, sitting in his beige office, making decisions about what kind of food was appropriate for his colleagues. Jenny, I said finally, call them back. Should I ask what specific changes they want to the menu? No. I handed her my coffee cup and walked toward the office. Tell them we're not changing anything. Tell them our menu is carefully crafted by one of the most talented chefs in the city, using the finest ingredients available. Tell them that if they want mainstream food, McDonald's delivers. Jenny's eyes widened. Rachel, it's a huge account, and we'll do it brilliantly, exactly as planned. But we don't compromise our vision because someone thinks risotto is too scary for the suburbs. I left her standing there and headed to my office, a converted storage room with a desk I'd bought secondhand and motivational quotes I'd printed from Pinterest. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. My phone rang almost immediately. This is Rachel, Ms. Brennan? This is Tom Brennan from Brennan and Associates. I believe there's been some confusion about tonight's menu. His voice. After 18 months of silence, my father's voice came through the phone like a cold wind. He didn't recognize mine. No confusion, Mr. Brennan. Our menu stands as planned. I think you're misunderstanding the situation. We're a significant client, and we're simply asking for reasonable accommodations. What we're serving tonight represents the best of what we do. If that doesn't meet your needs, I'd be happy to recommend several chain restaurants that might be more in line with your preferences. Silence. I could picture him, probably in his little office with its motivational calendar and coffee mug that said "World's Greatest Dad." That mug used to make me smile. Now it just made me sad. May I ask who I'm speaking with? This was it. The moment I'd been unconsciously preparing for since that day in the unemployment office. This is Rachel Brennan, General Manager. The silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Rachel? One word. My name, spoken like he was seeing a ghost. Hi, Dad. What, how are you? You're managing this place. I could hear the confusion in his voice, the disbelief. In his mind, I was probably still sitting in that unemployment office, desperate and directionless. I'm the general manager, yes. And will be serving your event tonight as planned. I guarantee you and your colleagues will have an excellent experience. Rachel, I had no idea. 7 o'clock, Mr. Brennan. We'll see you then. I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from something else. Something that felt like power. At 7:15 p.m., I watched from the kitchen pass as 300 people in business attire filled our dining room, their conversations mixing with the clink of wine glasses and the soft jazz Marco had chosen for background music. Through the serving window, I could see my father at table 12, wearing his best suit and looking around like he'd stumbled into a foreign country. The risotto he'd tried to veto was flying out of the kitchen. Our servers moved with the kind of fluid efficiency that comes from working as a real team, and I felt that familiar surge of pride watching something I'd helped build function like a perfect machine. Chef wants you to taste the osso buco, Jenny said, appearing at my elbow with a small plate. I took a bite. Perfect. Rich, complex, exactly the kind of ethnic food my father had worried would offend his colleagues' delicate sensibilities. How's table 12? I asked. Jenny grinned. Mr. Brennan ordered the risotto. Twice. I almost smiled. Almost. The evening was flawless. Every course timed perfectly, every wine pairing spot on, every detail executed with the kind of precision that separated good restaurants from great ones. By 9 p.m., I could see the Brennan and Associates crowd relaxing, laughing, taking photos of their food to post on social media. My father caught my eye as I moved through the dining room, checking on tables. He raised his wine glass slightly, not quite a toast, but acknowledgement. I nodded back, professional and distant. At 10:30, as the last of the guests filtered out, my father approached the hostess station where I was reviewing the evening's receipts. Rachel, I looked up from my paperwork. Up close, he looked older than I remembered. Grayer around the temples, lines around his eyes that hadn't been there 2 years ago. Mr. Brennan. I hope everything was satisfactory. It was. He paused, searching for words. It was extraordinary. Really. The whole evening. Thank you. I'll pass that along to the team. He shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable. Could we talk? Privately? I glanced around. The dining room was nearly empty, staff cleaning up around us. We can talk here. Rachel, I owe you an apology. A massive one. What you've built here, what you've accomplished. I was wrong. About everything. The words I'd imagined hearing for 18 months. They should have felt triumphant. Instead, they just felt sad. You were protecting what you thought was best for me, I said. I understand that now. No, I was protecting my own ego. My own ideas about what success looks like. He gestured around the restaurant. This is success. Real success. And I was too blind to see it. I set down my pen and really looked at him. Dad, why are you here? Really? He was quiet for a long moment. The company's been struggling. Has been for a while. We lost 2 major clients last quarter, and there are rumors about layoffs. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration, but honestly, most of us are just trying to keep our jobs. Something cold settled in my stomach. How bad is it? Bad enough that we're looking at a buyout. Some restaurant group has been sniffing around, wanting to acquire small accounting firms to handle their books in-house. He laughed bitterly. Ironic, right? I spent my whole life looking down on the restaurant industry, and now it might be my salvation. The pieces clicked into place in my mind like puzzle pieces I'd been carrying without realizing it. Dad, I said slowly, what's the name of the restaurant group? Something Italian. Russo Holdings? I felt the world shift, slightly on its axis. Rachel? His voice was concerned now. Are you okay? I walked to the bar and poured myself a small glass of wine. My hands were steady, but my mind was racing. Dad, I need to tell you something. 18 months ago, I'd started as a manager at Russo's downtown. 6 months later, I'd been promoted to general manager. A year after that, when Mr. Russo decided to expand, he'd made me a partner. 3 months ago, when he'd decided to retire to Florida, I'd bought him out. Completely. Russo Holdings now owned 4 restaurants, a catering company, and had recently diversified into business consulting and financial services for small restaurants. We'd been acquiring accounting firms that specialized in hospitality, including Brennan and Associates. The buyout goes through next week, I said quietly. You'll be getting your official notification Monday. My father stared at me, not understanding. I'm Russo Holdings, Dad. I'm the restaurant group that's buying your company. The color drained from his face. That's not possible. I walked to my office and returned with a folder I'd been carrying for weeks, knowing this conversation would come eventually. I handed him the acquisition papers with his company's letterhead at the top and my signature at the bottom. You'll be transferred to our downtown office. The one upstairs, actually, right above the restaurant. You'll be handling books for all our properties. I paused, watching him process this information. If you want to keep your job, that is. You'd be reporting to Jenny, my assistant manager. She's getting promoted to operations director. He sat down heavily in the nearest chair, still staring at the papers. I don't understand. Turns out I was using my brain after all, I said softly. Just not the way you expected. We sat in silence for a while, the weight of everything hanging between us. Finally, he looked up at me. What happens now? I could have savored this moment. I could have reminded him of every cruel word, every dismissive comment, every time he'd made me feel small and ashamed. I could have made him beg. Instead, I did something my father had never taught me how to do. I chose grace. Now you come to work Monday morning. You do your job well, because I only keep people who do their jobs well. And maybe, eventually, we figure out how to be a family again. His eyes filled with tears he was too proud to let fall. I'm sorry, Rachel, for all of it. I know, Dad. 3 days later, I watched through my office window as my father adjusted his name tag and took his seat at the desk Jenny had assigned him. He looked up, caught me watching, and instead of shrinking away, he straightened his shoulders and got to work. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was a beginning. And sometimes, that's enough. The daughter who was once told she'd never amount to anything in places like that had not only succeeded, she'd done it. So completely that the places her father looked down on now owned the place he'd looked up to. But in the end, the real victory wasn't in the reversal of power. It was in choosing to use that power with more wisdom and compassion than she'd been shown.